Welcome to Ignite Intimacy, a podcast exploring intimacy, romantic relationships, sexuality, and everything that relates to these hot topics. We're going in. Are you ready? This is your host, Laura Aisha. Let's do this. Hello, Ignite Intimacy community. This is Miss Laura Aisha, and it is the new year. I'm sitting here in Calabasas, California, and it is gorgeous outside after a couple of days of driving rain. Grateful to miss the bomb cyclone on the East Coast. A big shout out to all my New York City people and Buffalonians getting slammed with lake effect snow this winter. Sending love from California. So I'm really excited to be here on the line today with a gentleman that I met last year in Oakland, California at the New West Summit. And as you know, we have featured a handful of entrepreneurs in the cannabis space, and specifically in the cannabis and intimacy cannabis sex space. So Mathew and I, so we've actually got Mathew Gerson. He's the founder and CEO of Foria. And we've also got Kiana on the line as well from Foria. How are you two today?
We're great. Thanks so much for having us.
Absolutely.
Good morning from Topanga, right over the hill.
Yeah.
Stuck in here from a recent mudslide, but we get to enjoy being in the canyon while it's giving a huge exhale of respiration with all this moisture. It's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Just the scent of the earth is so alive.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's kind of what we're doing here. I mean, the earth scent is a form of storytelling, right?
Yes.
So it's just the sharing of information through smell that we can capture and recollect. So hopefully we'll have some things to say here that are tantalizing and delicious, both to the nose and ear, and we'll carry forward as a form of pollination of sorts.
Absolutely. Well, so speaking of scent, there's a lot of focus these days in the cannabis space around terpenes. Or is that is it terpenes or?
You got it.
Okay.
It's terpenes.
Great. And so
they're all the rage.
So I'm curious how you are dancing with the scents and the terpenes from cannabis with your products, with your product line.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. And it's, I never really thought about that because from a historical standpoint, the fascination with terpenes was mainly around the aesthetic of the smell of good weed. That marijuana, certain strains were known for having really pungent aromatics. And as a species, we're kind of fascinated with these really delicious smells, and they had different flavor profiles. And our understanding at that time that those terpenes really played a role in the medicinal and the psychoactive properties of the plant were pretty much unknown. So it's interesting that we were already very much oriented and attracted to the plants, to this one aesthetic property, to this beautiful aromatic bouquet of smells it was putting out. And now we're finding out that the roles that terpenes play in terms of how our bodies are able to engage with the cannabinoids and what benefits we might accrue are really unique and profound and mysterious. For us, it's an interesting question because our first product was a pleasure enhancement oil that's THC and coconut oil. And it's otherwise known as the weed lube, although it's not a lube, and we can tell you why as a part of this dialogue. In our early testing of this product, we found that the majority of women preferred that it not be a dank, terpene-rich smell. Mm-hmm. So because it was a topical, because you were mixing it with body-derived terpenes, smells that the body originates, then it was questionable if enough women really wanted that rich marijuana smell between their legs. So what we did was we put the extraction through a distillation process that removes the terpenes. So we end up with an oil that is not quite smellless, but that certainly doesn't have that dank, rich cannabis smell that you would associate with most weed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so interesting. I just actually at the New West Summit was my first introduction to this whole world of terpenes. And of course, through the years, I just love to put my face in, in some bud and just deep inhale, and it's just really interesting, the science behind it and how, and I mean, I think it's just in general in life, like I've always been a scent person, and I'm either aware of a scent that completely turned me off and that I want to get as far away from, or scent that I just want to dive into and do the deep inhale.
I think scent is a really interesting topic just to touch on. It really speaks to the body's intelligence in responding to all of these natural cues that we innately have and sometimes lose connection from. And in my opinion, the science comes after what we already know. If you take a pregnant woman, for example, and her heightened sense of smell, often it's driving her body towards wanting things that her body really needs. And so when I think of scent and smell and our innate response to them, it's really our body's telling us what it wants more of or what it wants less of, and the complexities of each of our unique systems. And
yeah, I mean, I would also go so far as saying that the expression of scent in its primacy is a sexual response to the environment from the plant's perspective. I mean, so it's putting out information to try to attract something, and it doesn't want to attract it so it's eaten, perhaps, or maybe perhaps it wants to be eaten, but it wants to be pollinated. It wants to be shared. It wants to reproduce itself, and primarily as an attractor, plants use visual cues like beauty, color, magnificent flowers and fauna and flora, or smells are a huge one. And I think with cannabis, not too many people, I think more people find the smell to be attractive than the visual. Some people love looking at cannabis porn all day long. They just can't ever tire of looking at a beautiful cola with the trichomes. And it's just, there's something about it which captures the gaze of the attention of our species. I mean, I would say it's because we are primarily the sex workers of the cannabis plant, and they put us to work as their key pollinators. And as a way to do that, we have to be in love with certain attributes of this sexualized plant. And visually it works for some people, but I think for more people, it's the smell that really gets them.
Yeah. Well, I think about it and I'm just drawing this parallel to humans and, the way that we present and the way that we smell and the way that we attract each other through visual and scent.
Yeah, pheromones are a huge part of our attraction to things. And I mean, maybe that is the correlation. The essential oils or the terpenes of a plant are, in a way, their pheromones and ways that their body are emitting. I mean, the whole planet is having sex all the time, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think the other interesting thing about scent is that, at least in humans, it's been shown to be the strongest sense tied to memory, which is really powerful. And we have explored a little bit with our other products, like Awaken. We have it's more fragrant, and it actually plays this role in memory that when you start to associate and you use this with your partner and it's stimulating all of this beautiful memory, it actually feeds into that whole scent mechanism. So not only are you working in present time with that, but it's stimulating all of, these kind of luscious memories with it, which I think is really fascinating.
Now, I'm so glad you brought up scent because, we haven't really had a chance to work with scent in our products because of what we spoke about earlier, because a lot of women didn't want them to smell. But Awaken was the first product that we launched where scent was a primary importance as one of the aphrodisiac type qualities that this product is expressing is through the smells. I mean, so we use 8 plants, all of which are considered to have aphrodisiac qualities in different cultures around the world. And most of them were for their smells. Wow. So the cacao and the vanilla and the cinnamon and the mint, those smells are sensual, right? Which the word scent is in. So we already knew that for some reason those plants just made us go, And so that's really something that we are very heightened in terms of our orientation towards now, in terms of how does this smell make you feel?
Yeah, I love that. Well, so I want to take our listeners on a journey here with you guys. And basically what we're going to be diving into is the Phoria, like this origin story of Foria and why you started the company, the gaps that you saw in the sexual health industry that really has left women behind. The sexual health industry is completely focused on men and really forgotten about women. And I can't wait to dive into, your own knowledge of the history of this and how women have not been prioritized in this area with regards to, menstrual discomfort, childbirth, and also sexual health and pleasure. So I'm wondering, Mathew, if you could take us back in your own origin story. I know that you had a product line in the sexual health space before you launched Foria, and I'd love to just hear a little bit about that and kind of how you got into this whole world.
Sure. When you said take us back, I thought we were going to go back to the garden, and then we there. I love that song. We have a Back to the Garden T-shirt. Actually, we're always trying to get back to the garden. Nice. Sure. Happy to try to give you the short and the skinny version. It's been a windy and storied road here, and interestingly enough, what I found out along the way was that I certainly didn't start anything new. I was just picking up where many had left off, and I mean, really, the historical story goes back so deep into our collective past in terms of what has happened around our orientation towards women, pleasure and pain, and sexual reproduction specifically. And what are the underpinnings around that story that are keeping us back as a culture and that are really compromising our relationship to the planet. So I didn't go into this having that knowledge. I've just picked it up along the way. Most of it whispered to me by plants or wise women. So, for myself, the story started with the creation of a condom company called Sir Richard's. I don't even know how long ago that was, probably around 7 or 8 years ago. And the goal that I was trying to orient towards with Sir Richard's was addressing the unmet demand for quality, branded, free contraceptives in areas of the world that were really lacking in access to contraceptives. And, the U.S. does give out a lot of condoms. George Bush the first was known as Rubbers. That was one of his nicknames.
Really?
Yeah, but the second George Bush was more oriented. His religious orientation made him not as fond of condoms. But condoms as a means to prevent human suffering was really my general orientation towards getting into the space. It seemed like there was an opportunity there to have some real impact, not just unintentional pregnancies, but all the diseases that are associated with unprotected sex in areas where there's high risk factors. Yep. And so I was looking at how could I address that as a layperson without a science or a medical degree, and what I came up with was similar to a Tom Shoes model with some enhancements and some differences that we were doing a 1-for-1 condom model. So we launched a vegan, chemical-free, sort of stylish condom here that was hoping to capture the imagination of millennials who didn't really have any brand association yet, and it was married to a free condom that we designed with a Haitian friend of mine who was a photographer and artist that we branded and launched in Haiti with Partners in Health. And so you would buy one and then we would give one away. And the tagline was doing good never felt better.
Oh, I love that.
So, I got the chance during that time in my life to travel around a lot and to speak at colleges and just to learn about the wild world of human sexuality through the eyes of, people that were growing up fast in the age of the internet and what their challenges were and what were the same issues that I face as a young person coming into, a sexual part of their being, and what was different given the conditions of the culture. And, I stayed with that company for a few years, and then I left and decided to go do some new things. And I did stay in touch with a number of academics and people that were really active in the social impact space around sex positivity and sexual health and these issues. And what stayed with me was this notion of disparity between, male sexual pleasure and female sexual pleasure. I mean, that was carried through everywhere. That, a lot of the whether it's the pornography industry or the products industry or the sex product industry, a lot of it is oriented towards male sexual pleasure. And that carries through into the pharmaceutical industry in terms of research and development. And I had read a book called The Wisdom of Whores. Oh, no, I was reading The Wisdom of Whores and a book called What Women Really Want, The Science of Female Desire. And I was reading those books at the same time. And the Science of Female Desire was really fascinating because it was looking at why have we not been able to figure out the female orgasm with drugs, and, part of me is like, yeah, we should be able to figure out the female orgasm with drugs. Like isn't that what drugs are supposed to do? Like we figure things out and then we apply our drugs to them and we fix things. Mm-hmm. And in a way, I'm kind of glad we haven't pathologized the female orgasm because then it would just be on lockdown with the big pharma, and then big pharma would control our ability to have orgasms. I don't think anybody wants that, men or women.
No.
No, it's probably not a good thing. I don't really want them in the bedroom, but the fact that they've figured out the pump mechanism of getting blood into the penis so men can have an erection, which is all any form of Viagra really is, it doesn't necessarily enhance pleasure. It just allows you to perform. That's a good thing. Like, leave the mechanics to them. But the nuance, the sophistication, the brilliance, the beauty, the magic and mystery of the female orgasm, I don't really want big pharma involved in that at all.
That's right.
And I think the entities that invented sex should be the ones that can solve for the mystery of the female orgasm. And plants invented sex. Like, we're pretty good at it, but we're really novices as a species. Plants really have perfected sex, and they invented it, and that's what they do all day long. And that's all we do, maybe like between 8 and 60 minutes a day if we're lucky. So I look towards the plants. I'm totally off story here and I'm rambling. What were we even talking about?
No, that's okay. Okay. Kiana, I'm feeling like you're ready to jump in here.
Oh, the origins of euphoria. Oh, Jesus. I can come back. I can go back. So the chocolate and peanut butter moment came when I learned that you can make cannabis oil. And so, having been in the condom space for a few years, whenever I heard the word oil, for me, it was immediately lubrication. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's how my mind worked when I heard oil, thought lubrication. And so I learned through moving to California from Colorado that you could extract the oils, the terpenes and the oils and all the active compounds out of the cannabis plant. And then you have this really viscous oil, and you could perhaps blend that. So it immediately came all together that I should take coconut oil and I should blend it with cannabis oil and I should put it on my girlfriend. And that just seemed to make a lot of sense.
I like the way you think.
And, I looked it up and no one had done it. And I'm like, this is really perplexing. Like, this seems so obvious. So I called some family members who were physicians, and I called some OBGYNs who I knew, and I was like, is this safe? Is this crazy? And they all were like, wow, that's really interesting. Let me know how it goes. And that was a key moment in that. What that said to me is that while the U.S. government has very much inhibited our ability to do a lot of deep clinical research on cannabis throughout the years, and there's a whole other podcast around why that is and what the outcomes and how we could know so much more about cannabis if those restraints were lifted. What that attested to, though, was the level of comfort that even a lot of MDs have around cannabis. It's rooted in the fact that this is a 10,000-year-old observational study we've been undertaking with this plant. This is probably the broadest, largest, longest qualitative observational study in the history of a plant-based relationship to human beings.
So interesting.
It just moved with us everywhere because it had so much to offer us. And my position is that it had so much to offer us because it wanted to put us to work to help it survive.
Totally. Okay.
And we figured it out.
So I'm just like, this whole thing around referring to cannabis as a drug in with a negative connotation. I just want to invite us all to start to talk about cannabis as a medicinal plant.
Yeah, I'm down with that. I like that, but I also like drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what we're talking, because drugs means it has a chemical response in the body, that it has a lock and key, that it fits with our neurochemistry. And there's something really powerful about that because it says, wow, our bodies have been co-evolving with this substance that actually fits into our brains exactly like the stuff that our brains create. So that's what a drug is. I mean, yes, the drugs that we synthesize and isolate and patent and own and sell, it's a different subset of compounds than a full spectrum botanical and all the complexities therein. But I think I definitely get what you're saying in terms of orienting not just about a drug that's doing something to you. Like we like to talk to our patients and our customers about how plant medicine works with you. Mm-hmm. It's more of a dance than you just lie there and ravish me. I mean, you have to actually engage with it. You have to be involved with the experience. And that's where the empowerment aspect comes into working with a plant or any other substance in the context of intimacy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So basically you decided to start using this or taking the ability to extract all these powerful, amazing properties from the cannabis plant and mix it with coconut oil.
Yeah, it's really deep science.
and then what happened? Like, how was the experimental process?
Well, believe it or not, that once the word got out that I was doing some small studies of working with cannabis as a sexual topical to enhance pleasure, there were a large number of friends and family members that wanted to participate in our study, which was great. And we're able to find out that across the pleasure spectrum, women of all ages with different orientations towards sexuality, towards gender, towards pleasure, pre-post-menopausal, women were finding benefits. And it was a really broad set of benefits, much broader than I could have ever dreamt up. And so that was the moment when I realized that something was, I like to say, re-emerging into the human collective psyche through this product. And we needed to really build some infrastructure around it to support its birthing.
Okay. And where did you go from there? What was kind of the next step to creating Foria?
Well, then it was the hunt for good quality cannabis, good quality extractors that were going to give us a clean, solvent-free product. I mean, I was just stepping into the wild world of operating in the cannabis industry. So my orientation was the standards had to be set higher than ever before because we were asking people to put plant-based drugs on their genitals for no good reason.
Yeah.
Just do it. And fortunately, given the nature of, I think, human sexuality and our orientation towards pleasure and a woman-driven movement, this was a collective effort in that a lot of what we did was informed by the women who were sharing their experiences. And a lot of our successes in getting over the double taboo of being a sex product and an illicit drug from the U.S. government's position was we overcame that because women were so sharing their stories of really profound impact of how cannabis, and these were not cannabis smokers. This is the really thing I love to try to share with your audience is like the one of the really unique things about using cannabis as a topical in the bedroom, specifically vaginally for a transvaginal absorption, is you're not getting high, you're getting off. You're getting the benefits of blood flow and smooth muscle tissue relaxation. You're getting all of the mysterious terpene and other benefits that cannabis has to offer that we don't fully grasp at all. But you're getting real impact from this plant being absorbed into your body through a very sensitive part, and you're not getting high. So that opened up the door for us to a much broader number of women who are like, I'm not really interested in getting high, and I definitely don't want to get high during sex, but I'm interested in enhancing pleasure, or I have some challenges, and I'm interested in knowing if this could help me because to date, my only recourse has been opiates. And that kind of sucks in the bedroom because you can't feel anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really in our product development as we've moved, it's really been through a relationship with our customers and their feedback. Our initial product was pleasure. And from that, like Mathew said, there was such a diverse array of feedback on that it wasn't only enhancing an intimate experience for someone with themselves or with their partner, it was also diminishing pain. And with the feedback that it was diminishing pain, it almost immediately leads you to what other kinds of pelvic pain are female-bodied people experiencing. Menstrual pain, scar tissue, post-birth trauma, tons and tons of different types of localized pain. And so that really fed into, Mathew can talk about this more, but I love that about Foria. I love that really our whole company and product line is really based off of customers' response to the plant and what she's doing and how she's working with their bodies.
That's amazing.
He's saying that because I haven't really thought about that. We never sat down and said, how can we make money selling cannabis products?
Yeah.
This product emerged, and then we had no idea what we're going to do next. So we're like, we made weed lube. What are we going to do after this? What do you really do after that? If you bring this up at a cocktail party, like the conversation after this one is always like a downer. You got to pull out the weed sexual enhancement oil conversation like later in the night. So seriously, we didn't strategize this. We listened.
Yeah.
And this was iterative. This was just like it's been a relationship between us and the plants for 10,000 years. We listened to the collection of stories that our users, the women, were sharing with us. And we realized, oh my God, pelvic pain. This is a huge issue. There's reason to believe that this is helping with pelvic pain. So what did we do? We contacted a local urologist who actually had contacted us because her patients were talking about the product. And we created a menstrual relieving vaginal suppository with a whole lot of cannabis in it. And that's a whole different story around when was the last time a all-natural, or not even an all-natural, a synthetic drug came on the market specifically to address the pain that women, tens and hundreds of millions of women go through every month.
Yeah, it's on that same thread that we were touching on earlier, is the female sexual health and, pelvic vaginal wellness has really been left behind in the pharmaceutical industry and the scientific community. And it's just really I feel like starting to have energy around it because people are really speaking about this huge disparity between the information and the scientific, investigation of what's possible. Even speaking on menstrual products, I think the last time there was a really highly innovative product was like when Midol was invented.
Wow.
And
That's
now
been over 50 years.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And now people, I love, what some other brands are doing in that realm, just rethinking menstrual support, the cups and the period underwear and all of that stuff is really, again, to me, this feedback that we are collectively reimagining how we can address issues in the female health and wellness space. And that's really exciting to me. And I know it's really exciting to us as a company.
Yeah. Well, and I'm just thinking that right now the products, so you've got a product that has no THC in it. That's the newest product, Awaken. But you've got these other products that do have THC or CBD in them, and they can only be bought in states where cannabis is legal, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And so where is that part of it going? Like, how do you see giving more women access to these products over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, where is it going? It's a snake riding a roller coaster on a typhoon. I don't know. I have no idea where it's going. It seems the winds are changing constantly around the political appetite that our government has to make some substantive changes around cannabis policy. What we do know is that the collective will of the people has been consistently oriented heavily towards an acceptance of the plant as an ally to our species, and wanting to decriminalize, wanting to legalize, wanting to allow children and their parents and their caregivers to have access to the plant as needed, both as a medicinal and as a recreational agent. And, one of the things that's got me so excited is a report came out, I think a month ago, that kind of for the first time ever, alcohol sales were down in Colorado.
Wow.
And you might go, oh, yeah, well, whoop-de-doo. But if you think about how has alcohol been a structural codependent support of the sort of some of the less than healthy qualities of the patriarchy, in terms of where does alcohol play a role in terms of abuse and violence and unconsciousness. And alcohol has been like our go-to drug as an industrial culture for a really long time. And it's a plant. It's hops. It's a plant. And so we have these times of history where sugar is transformative, opium is transformative, caffeine and tea and coffee is transformative, and then alcohol comes in. And I think all of these things orient towards our desire to have ecstasis, our desire to have ecstatic states of consciousness where we get out of the limitations of ourself and enter into a larger state of being. And human beings have always been oriented towards that. And the pathway to that is, for most of us, has been through plants.
I have some of what you asked in the question really resonated on the level that, we asked ourselves the same question: where can we go with this when there's a lot of legal limitation around, like we have to, if we sell in California, it's all made in California and it's only sold here. So even in other legal states, we can't ship product to them. And so it's been a little challenging to figure out how to diversify our products, our THC line, to get them to enough people. And that really inspired our CBD line because, again, direct access to a highly, highly medicinal plant that's legal everywhere. CBD is one of the most interesting medicines in my perspective, and it has so many amazing qualities. It's anti-inflammatory, it's modulating of so many systems in the body, and there's so much that can be done and explored there, and really people can have access to that, widespread access to that. And so we really, in the last year and coming into this year, we're really moving into that realm because it offers such a wider access to our customers and to people. And we're really excited about, the science behind it and really getting involved with the scientific community and also bringing in this really historical, documented wisdom that's been with us for ages and through centuries and through different cultures that comes with the cannabis hemp, plant family that has moved along with us.
I would also go so far as saying the fastest way for us to get our product to other people in other states is for people to knock us off. And I'm proud of that. We want women and their partners to have the benefit of using cannabis in this capacity. And we can't get out into all those other markets. We're not a large enough company, and the markets are too unstable, and it's very, very hard to get vertically integrated across the 20-odd states where we could be operational. So anyone who's listening, if you're going to start a cannabis lubricant company or you're going to make vaginal suppositories or rectal suppositories and you want advice on how to make them really well to make sure that you're taking care of your patients, you should contact us.
That's awesome.
We're doing this in the service of that. And it's not about owning the market. It's about supporting the market to serve the people.
Yeah, well, that is so generous. And it's like my whole body is like, wow, just that's so beautiful. I'm so grateful that you shared that. It's like, it's such a shift from the culture that, we've been in generally in business and product design and patenting everything and, making sure you can just hold on to it, and it's amazing that you shared that, Mathew. Do you mind if I share your email?
Oh, no, that's fine.
Okay, cool. So
it's funny, when we first launched, our biggest story was on Vice, the launch story. That was one of the first breakout sort of hits we had from a media standpoint. And in the article I wrote, I'll teach you how to make this at home. If you're in the market that you can't get access to our product, I want you to be able to make it. So all these people wrote me from all around the world. They're like, how do I make the weed lube? And it was really rewarding. And I felt like I was really honoring the plant in the service of this work. And I appreciate your kind words, but I really feel like that this industry has an opportunity to be disruptive across so many different aspects of how we do business as usual. Not just in the consumer product space, but in terms of how we approach healthcare, how we approach intimacy. And the plants don't hold back. They give of themselves completely. And that's where I think the unique moment in time is coming, where we're finally going to have to realize that, the mystery of how the plants present cannabinoids and terpenes is very profound and so beyond our ability to understand it. And it's not only that, but our understanding of our own endocannabinoid system is so nascent and so young. that to isolate these individual compounds and then to say this is what it does or doesn't do is still full of hubris.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we think it does.
Yeah.
And this is what we think it might do. And, the totality of working with these compounds, I think, is always going to be more impactful when you work with the entire plant. Because that's, we got a couple million years of evolutionary, co-evolving behind us in the service of more holistic approach towards working with plants in general.
Mm-hmm. Well, so the email, if you'd like to reach out to Mathew and Kiana, is Mathew with one T at phoriapleasure.com. So Mathew, Mathew at phoriapleasure.com. You could also reach out to Kiana at phoriapleasure.com, Kiana, and we'll include those in the show notes as well. So I'm wondering if you are aware of any pregnant women who have used suppositories as they are entering into birthing mode.
There's probably so many of them, and it's such a controversial topic that people aren't really being out in the open about it.
Yeah.
It's interesting you asked that, because this last weekend we attended a really wonderful event that a midwife, Elizabeth Bachner, put on. It's called the Drive by Grace, and it's an event for mothers, pregnant women, and their babies in arms. And it's
oh, wow.
And she's starting a podcast about births. And the first person that she had on her podcast was Katie Vigos, I think her name is, right?
Yeah, Empowered Birth Project.
Yeah, it's the Empowered Birth Project, which has really disrupted Instagram in the best way in terms of censorship of nipples and birth and all sorts of things. But anyways, so she interviewed her about her 3 births. And for the first time publicly ever, she talked about medicating with cannabis during her labor with her second child. And it was so amazing to see the response of this room full of mothers and pregnant women and their curiosity and their, probably deeper intuitive understanding that this plant has historically been used for gynecology and for obstetrics and for birthing purposes for so long, for as long as we have documentation of our relationship with the plant, and that there's things that in our body reflect that as well. The female endocannabinoid system is a lot of the densest, the place in our body where the receptors live is in our pelvis. And so, I think it's just a kind of burgeoning conversation. And it's one that we actually really want to get involved in terms of, just letting people share their voice and their experience, because people who are using cannabis during birth, whether it is, using it in a way that, we have over the last century, smoking it or using it topically, using it, the suppositories, it would be really, really wonderful, I think, to be able to find a common ground and a comfortability in the ability to share that, so that, mothers can start saying, hey, this is working. This is not having a negative effect on me, and really end the stigma around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm just thinking, just knowing how even just edibles impact my body physically and just allow me to relax. And I think about way back when, many years ago, when I gave birth to my daughter, and wow, I could just imagine how helpful having one of the suppositories could have been. I had her naturally, no medicine, but man, like the back pain and the, just like when your body is opening up to birth a baby, it's intense, it was intense for me, and it's intense for a lot of women. And then the added complications of, the different drugs that they give women to help ease the pain. And, so I could just see this being a huge benefit. And then just all the stigma. I mean, as a mom, my daughter's 20 now, but I have not been out about being a lover and connoisseur of cannabis until recently, because, I was concerned about, one, like how does that look? And really the number one thing was, could my daughter's father use this against me? And So I just sort of laid really low for a very long time. And it's empowering to see moms being open about their use with cannabis. And that for me was really inspired about 10 years ago when I was spending some time on the West Coast. And, I just realized that it was just fluid. It wasn't something that you kept away from kids. It was just part of the lifestyle for many people that I knew out here and that I know out here. And there wasn't this like weird stigma around it. So I love that products like yours are actually like, it's creating room for women who maybe have never tried cannabis. They've never smoked it. They really haven't been around it very much. But for them to actually develop a relationship to this plant and to the beneficial qualities of the plant that has nothing to do with just sitting around and getting high.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And, something that was interesting in talking about, imagining, I have 2 children as well, and both of them were natural births. And really, unless you've gone through childbirth, there's no description of the intensity of that experience, just none. I mean, it's really, I think, a rite of passage in its own way, so majorly for any mother. But something that, again, relates to this whole thing around the female sexual health and wellness and, childbirth and all of that is there's been these developments to make birth kind of quicker and easier. And the epidurals, really, it is about pain relief. But again, there's not really been any investigation into natural alternatives to that. And in my opinion, the jury's still out on how beneficial epidurals and Pitocin are. They're obviously life-saving and helpful in certain cases, but the safety and efficacy of them and in using them in every birth and, safe and natural births is, we've seen throughout history with different medicines that have been used at birth, how, the effects down the line have affected the children. And so I'm not pointing my finger at Pitocin or epidurals and saying that they're horrible and they're going to do anything wrong, but to have a natural alternative that's accepted by the medical community would be profoundly amazing. Mm-hmm. It would be something that, obviously we need to have studies, and there's difficulty doing that because who wants to put a pregnant woman in a study? It's, the most vulnerable time in a person's life. So, but really, I would love to see that, even doing more postpartum studies with cannabis. I know that there's some things that have come out recently that are talking about how CBD is really helping with postpartum depression, which if we're talking about intimacy and sex and all of that can be a very, very difficult time for a mother to integrate her sexuality after giving birth. I'm also a birth worker, so I work with birth and postpartum women, and it's this time where you're reshaping your whole identity and you're this caregiver mode, and you're giving everything that you have, and often really depleted, and your vagina itself has really gone through so much, or your body, if you've had a cesarean section, there's so much physical recovery that's happening, and your hormones are, that you have this prolactin that's suppressing a lot of the sex hormones that are necessary to feel desire and arousal. And so it's this very complex time, and I would love to see a lot more of the scientific community and funding looking into how a natural alternative applied to this part of life can be so useful and so helpful. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just on that note too, it brings it back to one of the favorite things that our product Pleasure does for people is decreases pain during sex, which is a huge issue that not a lot of people talk about because it's a very intimate detail. So many women, so many female-bodied people experience pain during intercourse. And there's really, that I know of, not anything on the market that directly addresses that. And so to have people, this is very moving for me, our customer feedback saying, hey, I'm having sex for the first time in years pain-free. Wow. And I'm feeling things again. Or, a menopausal woman or a postmenopausal woman saying, hey, I haven't been able to have sex for for so long without pain because of, this transition in my hormones and my body, and my partner and I are finally getting to reconnect, and it's changing our lives. Like, thank you. Like, so transformative in that capacity. And again, post birth, there can be the scar tissue, there can be sensitivity, there can be even the kind of nervous system's relationship and response to having something in or near the vagina after giving birth can be disruptive to the nervous system, because there can be a feeling of fear or trauma around that experience. And so having something that really allows relaxation, the increase in arousal through the blood flow, through the tissues, just as a support, I think it's a really wonderful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and also for women who haven't been able to orgasm.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's a very complex topic, because female arousal, again, has been not paid attention to. And it's really the common discussion around arousal is really from a male pattern, arousal and then orgasm and then kind of finishing. And the mechanism for female arousal, even the way that we are. If you look, there's an amazing book, this book titled Vagina, that I believe it's Naomi Wolf wrote. And she does a really in-depth investigation in the beginning of the book, looking at the kind of neural and nervous system wiring to the pelvic region. And
the goddess array.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And what she discovers and what she talks about is the male wiring is fairly similar and consistent. And for female-bodied people, the wiring to the pelvis is completely different in every single person. Whether you're networked more towards your clitoris or intravaginally or even anally, it's really unique to the person's body. And so there's not one fits all pleasure spot. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, the female orgasm, we are so linked emotionally and psychologically with how our body responds. And so it's a much bigger topic than just the physical response of the body. And, I was just reading last night, which was something that shocked me, that females have the same exact amount of erectile tissue that men do, the same exact amount.
Wow.
And that's something that we're not even thinking about or utilizing or even aware of, is looking at, the amount of arousal, the time it takes for full arousal for a female is very different than it takes for a male-bodied person. And so there's this huge interplay between all of those facets. And then, of course, you have the relationship with the person or with yourself and your own psychological relationship with sexuality. And it becomes a really big thing that you get to kind of unwind and discover on your own. And I think to have access to products that can even support in small ways, where it is relaxing, maybe tense muscle tissue, or it is diminishing pain enough to where you're able to work through some kind of nervous system wiring that you've been experiencing in your sexual experiences. It's really amazing. It's a tremendous opportunity to connect with yourself in that way.
I love it. This has been an amazing conversation. I'm just so grateful for the two of you, and I'm just grateful that this idea came through you and that you are doing just this powerful work in the world. And not only that, but just so interested in sharing it and spreading it and wanting more people to engage with it and to create their own iterations of products that can support sexual health and wellness and pleasure for women. And now, with regards to the product itself, does it impact a man? So like if...
Yeah. Well, all the men I know that care about their partner's pleasure are impacted by the product. If their partners are female. So unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, the fact is that to our knowledge, this is a female plant. The response of the secretion of these cannabinoids and these terpenes and this sticky, gooey, fun substance that the female flower secretes in order to capture airborne pollen it's a sexualized response. Some would say it's a protective response to predators, but I think it's for sex. All of this is in the service of the female side of the plant's sexualization. That said, we've tried. we've made a lot of attempts trying to figure out how could cannabis help guys in the bedroom, guys with intimacy. And, if you look at the plant and all the different delivery systems, that's where it gets interesting. As a topical, little to no evidence that it does much of anything for enhancement. As a ingestible through smoking, it's huge.
Mm-hmm. Or a rectal suppository.
I'll get there. That's my favorite conversation. So smoking is interesting because you have to be really careful. There has been research here around use of cannabis for both erectile dysfunction and libido in general. And it seems that less is often more with the case of cannabis and it makes sense because we're usually 2 feet left of our body, and like we're trying to get back in alignment in time to be intimate with our partners. And it's usually hard to do because we're so prefrontally oriented. We're so hyper wired. And maybe a small amount of consumption can just drop that away and you can drop into your body. And just becoming more embodied will lead to more pleasure, right? Could also lead to more pain, but it could lead to more pleasure. So cannabis can provide that, certainly to men, and they can work with that. The last point that Kiana was making is that we do have a rectal suppository that's designed for both enhanced pleasure for the rectal area, whether that's prostate specific or not. And that is interesting because you're presenting cannabinoids through the rectum and it leads to a full body deep relaxation. The central nervous system drops. There's shoulders drop. You just want to drop in with someone, drop in, drop out. What's the old expression? Like it definitely, it leads to a deep state of relaxation and sort of an acceptance. And so we did design that specifically with the needs of the LGBTQ community in mind. It's non-gender specific. It's anyone who has an asshole can use it and use it to whatever end that they're looking to derive from use of a cannabis suppository.
Well, and if you want to talk about, again, intimacy and sexual exploration as a means of, knowing yourself or knowing your partner more, there's no better place to start than with your asshole. I mean,
there's so
much stigma around it, and not everyone's going to enjoy it. But to even consider that there's a tremendous amount of nerve endings there for some people, and there is the prostate, which is a really amazing spot for male pleasure, even in heterosexual partnerships.
There is an epidemic of prostate issues in this culture.
Yeah.
And that's, there's good argument for that being tied to us being extraordinarily anal retentive, have been disassociated from that part of our region from a small age. And sort of the reacceptance of that part of the body can lead to greater health and pleasure. And we are working on some R&D on some prostate health specific cannabinoid products to help with BPH and large prostate and all the unfortunate outcomes that come of that as men age.
Well, there's so many directions that this is going, and the fact that this country is seeing a revolution in the legalization of cannabis and the ability to continue this exploration and do the deep dive and give access to more people in so many different and new ways, that cannabis has so many applications and it is a deeply healing plant. So there are incredible, medicinal properties and it can also be fun. So let us know, where can people find you online?
Sure. So if they're looking to just learn about our THC products, which they probably won't be able to purchase, but if they just wanted to learn more, they can go to ForiaPleasure.com. And also just a quick Google search of weed lube and Foria, or the weed tampon, which is what the internet decided to call our vaginal suppository. There's probably been more third-party product trial reviews of our suite of products than any other products in the cannabis industry, just because of the nature of their use and below the belt. So you can get a lot of information that's not coming from us. It's coming from other individuals that have tried and are using the product. And we always encourage people to do a deep dive on these products to see if it's something that you want to bring into your life. We also have a website, which is ForiaWellness.com. Currently, there is a product on there for sale. It's Awaken. That's the 8-plant aphrodisiac, sort of sensual enhancement oil, also designed for women. 8 plants, nothing else, no parabens, no phthalates, no chemicals, fragrances, or anything you wouldn't want in your body or in the bedroom. That site's going to be blossoming into a full suite of wellness products over the coming weeks. And that's where a lot of our attention has been. And we probably won't get into the specificity around CBD and THC and the legality around all of that. But we have recognized that there's a tremendous amount of benefit to be gained from the CBD side of this equation. And CBD is also one of the cannabinoids that's found in lower potencies in legal industrial hemp that's grown here domestically. And if you're responsible in your sourcing, you can find really high quality, organically grown hemp here in Colorado and Kentucky and Oregon. It's a booming industry. And I think it's going to continue to grow as people are finding more and more health benefits from CBD. So we are launching a line of full spectrum products that are using other plants with their known benefits for stress support, for sleep, for sensual enhancement, for neuroprotective and energy. And that's a lot of where our focus is, because it's going to give us access to more people to get more benefit from what these plants have to offer. And we'll still continue to innovate and launch new products on the THC side. And we have a couple that we'll launch this year that we're excited about. But we wanted to give the planet access to these benefits. We just have countless stories of men and women sharing their stories about how this plant helped things that were so beyond what we could have ever imagined in terms of, IBS or tinnitus or PCOS or nervous leg syndrome. I mean, migraines. There's so many outlier things. And you might say, oh, well, that's correlation, not causation. It's just someone's story. But when you hear them again and again and again, I think as people, we have to become more open to each other's stories and letting that be a form of validation, not just letting an expert run a controlled study for the sake of someone to profit on, and letting that be the definitive, answer to whether or not we want to use something. Mm-hmm. Have to know if things are safe, but we've established over 10,000 years that the safety of this plant is extraordinarily high. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No pun intended.
I will also say you can find our THC products if you live in California or Colorado at dispensaries across the state. So you can call your local favorite one,
and or you Canada.
In Canada, on Tweed in Canada. But if you are, not familiar with any dispensaries, you can email hello@foriapleasure.com and they can point you in the right direction.
Great. Okay, cool. So we've been speaking with Mathew Gerson. He's the creator and co-CEO of Foria, and Kiana Reeves, who heads up all California operations for Foria. It's been a pleasure, you two.
Oh, this is great. I mean, it's an honor to speak with you. We didn't get to talk about all the wonderful individuals that you've had on here in the past. You must find yourself pretty inspired and in a pretty juicy state every day, given the wild range of people that you get a chance to talk to. And we are going to hold you to the gathering here of like-minded hearts in Topanga in the coming future. So very much looking forward to furthering the dialogue.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. It was really fun.
Oh, absolutely. Well, keep on with the great works that you're up to. Ignite Intimacy Community. Check out Foria, foriapleasure.com, foriawellness.com. And again, Mathew at foriapleasure.com, Kiana at foriapleasure.com. We'll have all of those links in the show notes. And stay tuned. Keep checking in with your pleasure and opening up and exploring new things that will enhance, enlighten, and ignite your intimacy and your sexual health and your sexual relations. Just sending so much love and light to everyone in this brand new year. And check us out online, igniteintimacy.com. Holler at us on iTunes, and we will see you on the next one. Stay blessed, and ciao for now. Thanks for tuning in to another conversation on the Ignite Intimacy podcast hotline. We love that you choose to spend your time with us. Check us out at igniteintimacy.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us a review and a rating. It helps more people know about us. We love to hear from you. You can email us with questions, comments, or suggestions to hello@igniteintimacy.com. and tell your friends. Music was arranged by Jason Pfaff and Mike Corey, and this podcast is produced by yours truly, Laura Aisha. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one. In the meantime, let your light shine bright and ignite your intimacy.